Welcome back to Maitland as we approach top 4 here at our Premier Challenge, our first one back after a long old break. We're going over to the other side of the bracket now. You guys had plenty of time to review it over the course of that little break, and you'll know that it was all 2-1s, so all these players pretty evenly matched, pretty close in how they're going. But Brady, is this what you were expecting from our first local back?
No, not at all. So the last time we had a local, I think we had an astonishing number of maybe like 7 players, maybe 8. I think we just barely got the kicker. So now having sorry, how many players you say again?
It was like 30 all in, yeah.
30. Wow, that's really, really good growth. So VGC is growing a lot right now. I'm sure everyone who's in the game already knows this, and it's a great time to kind of get in. There's so many resources available out in the public, so we're going to see 2 of these players. One of them is an experienced Florida player, actually. He's been playing since 2016, maybe 15, and that is Matthew. Matthew has gone to a lot of these tournaments. He's an old-school veteran Pokemon player, and he's top cut multiple Florida championships. The other person is Luis, and I have never seen this kid in my life, and that is a good thing because that is a fresh face and that is a brand new person to welcome inside of our community. So Luis currently is playing a Tatsugiri team. We've seen so much Dozo Giri. I guess that's the Florida meta. It's just Dozo Giri right now. Dozo Giri and still Glamora, Chi-Yu, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane. So very, very similar team to what we have seen inside every single one of these teams. I'm trying to spot the difference. I think this one has a Fluttermane. That's the main difference. I don't think a lot of them went Fluttermane. I've seen a Meowscarada one. And then last round, I believe there was no Fluttermane. It was a Chi-Yu plus Iron Bundle. And then, but either way though, Dozo Tatsugiri is everywhere, and I think that Iron Hand's going to make an appearance here from Matthew's team. If we could get the teams up on like the list, I would love to kind of like break down the matchup and kind of show what the highlights are. So we have on Matthew's side Fluttermane, Gyarados, Amoonguss, Scizor, Iron Hands, and Chi-Yu, and up against Luis's Giri, Dozo, Glamora, Chi-Yu, Iron Bundle, and Fluttermane. So what I would kind of expect from this is that the Iron Bundle from Luis's team will definitely come into play here, given its booster energy, has access to Icy Wind, has access to Freeze Dry for the Gyarados, Hydro Pump for the Terra Fire on Scizor after you force it to Terra Fire, utilizing maybe something like your, actually, I don't know, actually, yes.
You use Chi-Yu to make it
go.
good. Yeah,
Chi-Yu, that's what, thank you. Exactly. So sometimes I get like so invested inside this that I overlook like simple details. So yeah, you could force it with Chi-Yu and combine that with Bundle. That create a very, very strong turn 1 pin from Luis. As for like Matthew, we've seen the Iron Hands, like how much work this puts into Dozo. You just bring it in, just goes for a fake out, gets off a wild charge maybe. So that's got to be a key player along with the Gyarados here, because the Dozo from Luis's team is unaware. It's not oblivious, so you can intimidate it with Gyarados.
I mean, the big thing right here is Iron Hands, right? Iron Hands deals with the Iron Bundle, deals with the Chi-Yu, hits Glamora really hard, hits Dondozo really hard. So you've got to bring Fluttermane at some point. And as soon as you see that Fluttermane come through, you're in a great position. So maybe like an Iron Hands Scizor combination could be interesting. It is, of course, a little bit too physically offensive for my tastes, but, definitely puts down a good amount of pressure. And it really just depends, how Matt wants to see out the rest of this game. I think, his selection, this is a tough one to bring, but it's like, okay, I think once you get rid of the Fluttermane, honestly, Iron Hands can kind of sweep through the rest of this team. I think this is maybe Luis building his team with the expectation that Iron Hands is a little bit lower in the usage, has been lower in metagame usage for quite some time now. Never really got a good grip in Series 2, and now in Regulation C, definitely feels like it's a very niche pick, but when it works, it works. I do think being able to intimidate the Dondozo is going to be big. One thing I will say, in comparison to the Dondozo we saw last game, Luis is, yes, unaware, as you pointed out, but also no substitute, so not able to slow the game down quite as effectively as some of the others, and the Dondozo gets a little bit dicey, right? Grass Terror means, there is a world where you can get really, really hurt by some of these options. So, it's like, okay, if you go Iron Hands, then you just get caught by the Chi-Yu if you Grass Terror. So, lots to think about, but no sign of the Dondozo yet. It is just going to be that Iron Bundle Chi-Yu combination with the Iron Hands and the Fluttermane pairing off. So, this feels like a really good position for Iron Hands. And honestly, the Fluttermane too. It's like, okay, how much can Iron Bundle do while Chi-Yu's here? Because I don't think it's going to be around for that long.
So something I do want to know, so in terms of lead matchup alone, I would have to give this one to Matthew. Just look at the Iron Hands and identify how uncontested it really is inside this board. Because there's a Chi-Yu that, could totally Heat Wave, maybe do a little bit of damage in Iron Bundle, but, you're holding the Assault Vest, so you can get a Drain Punch super effective off on both these and kind of heal up that damage. And then your Flutter Mane also gets an additional special attack into this Iron Bundle, so you can click Moonblast into it, kind of knock it out, or just do a bunch of damage to the Chi-Yu. So I would say the lead matchup is currently slanted towards Matthew's favor, and I do want to say that was very interesting of Luis to identify that the Iron Bundle plus Chi-Yu as a lead could be very strong, but just like Diaz said earlier, the Flutter Mane is the best way to get rid of the Iron Hands, and that's currently not on the board, so this Iron Hand's just gonna go in.
This is the one thing Matthew had to be scared of, which is of course the Ghost Terror onto Chi-Yu. It's been the most prominent pick on Chi-Yu for a while, with the rise of some of these fighting types being able to avoid that one. So it's going to be Protect over an Iron Bundle, matched with, I believe it was a Protect on the Flutter Mane as well. There it is. So let's see if Matthew took the bait here, and if this Chi-Yu is able to do some work. It is going to get the Heat Wave going, obviously not into the Flutter Mane. And this Iron Hands does have the Assault Vest, so should be able to hold on to it pretty comfortably. I'd say that's pretty comfortable. And it does make the right call, doesn't fall for it, just lands a monstrous Wild Charge into that Chi-Yu. So even though he did all he could to try and save himself, it just wasn't enough in that turn. And now, the Chi-Yu, even though it's Ghost Terror, very easy to get picked up by something like the Flutter Mane and a quick Dazzling Gleam. The Dazzling Gleam would also do some good damage down onto Iron Bundle, and then the Iron Bundle could quickly get picked up by this Iron Hands. So definitely feels like a really, really strong board position for Matthew here. Just being able to tidy up where he wants. And we'll say giving up that booster energy photosynthesis is certainly interesting. But clearly scared of this Iron Bundle. I believe the Iron Bundle was able to pick up the boost to its speed, so being very respectful of that instead with both of them activating the Iron Bundle. Will go first. Oh, Icy Wind. Decent little bit of damage, but it's not going to threaten the Iron Hands enough for my taste.
Yeah, no, that certainly did not do any damage. Like, if I was inside of Matthew's perspective, I would be very, very happy with this play right here, because Overheat going into not very effective Gyarados, and obviously Gyarados' split F is massive, so it's going to ate that up even with the Beads of Ruin. It's not very effective, and we have the Iron Bundle that just fainted his Wild Charge. Iron Hand's taking a little bit of damage, but I would have wondered how much that Overheat would have done onto the Iron Hands, if that would have been enough to either knock it out before or after the Wild Charge.
Still don't think it would. I still think it was
really?
maybe a bit of a stretch. Yeah, with the Assault Vest too, right? Like it felt like really, really, I don't know, maybe.
It's strong.
It is strong, but then at that point, right, like you just get Gyarados in for free. So the Chi-Yu, you kind of just want the Chi-Yu to go down. This is a play I'd be really excited to see from Matthew. You can see him hovering the Amoonguss. That's going to be a pretty solid switch in. Do you just try and finish off the Chi-Yu, or do you just start making this Dondozo's time really, really uncomfortable?
So, instead of my opinion, I'm looking at this from an objective slant. I'm trying. If you're Luis, you absolutely have to do this. You have to switch out, because you are not losing your Chi-Yu, because you are forced to go into Dozo this turn, because you're getting nothing else. If you lose Chi-Yu, the game is over, and because you only have a Dozo up against an Amoonguss plus Iron Hands, which can fake you out, and it's like you have to switch out there. So it'll be interesting to see what Matthew did to really capitalize on this. Going for Thunder Wave, I don't know if I saw that, so I'm not going to spoil it for myself. But if you click Thunder Wave onto the Dondozo, that would be your play to practically call this switch out into Tatsu here. Iron Hands is switching out, just like you said, into Amoonguss. And that, I think this would be a very, very good switch in, because it'll eat up anything this Dondozo can really go into it. And then only thing I'd be a little bit worried about is if you Thunder Wave, because you cannot spore down the Dondozo. But as long as you're mindful of that, you don't try to double status it. This is pretty good for Matthew. He can just kind of pick which one he wants to go with. I'd go with Sleep, honestly, and then just kind of go forward with that.
So I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one, right? Obviously Sleep is great because it can't do anything. But, the Paralysis takes away all the speed boosts, which could make your decision-making a little bit easier later on, right? And it could help out something like the Iron Hands, if it's trying to get an attack off before it gets Earthquaked. The Gyarados clinging on here is absolutely massive, though. So the Wave Crash recoil will mean Gyarados gets to fight for another turn or two with its Figgy Berry activating. Will be kind of racking up that damage. Gyarados goes Thunder Wave, which I like. And you know what the Amoonguss can do? Yeah, it can just heal up the Gyarados. I was thinking the Amoonguss would be really great to heal up something like the, the Iron Hands. Even worse time for this Dondozo, though. as it's just been clear smogged.
Well, you know what, Dawes? I actually kind of agree with you now. Now I fully agree. I think that
Yep.
Thunderwave was the correct play because now its speed is cut in half. So assuming this Amoonguss is not trained like, min speed, you can totally go for the Pollen Puff on your own Gyarados, Waterfall, flinch it down, get your whole team up to full HP. Just why not? Because just get as much value as you possibly can and just kind of make this Dondozo's job just very, very hard for what it really wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most glamorous way to play the game, but also, like, there could be a turn where you just, like, you Pollen Puff, it doesn't get to attack, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm at full health, I can start messing around with it with Rage Powders. So, definitely feels a little bit risky right now, maybe just trying to pivot the board around a little bit. But I think at this point, right, like, you just go for it. I think you just try and, cause some problems, and just, like, flinch para, it's just not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it's going to be slow, but it's going to be a tough one. Yeah, here's a good chunk on the Dondozo. It will get to Wave Crash in response, but it's not going to be enough for the knockout. You're getting like free damage, I guess, with the Pollen Puff, which is kind of cool, but it's actually, when I say free damage, that's a good amount getting put down there.
So, interesting to note, though, that would have been the turn to go for Pollen Puff because now you are in range of a Wave Crash. And that is not really what you want to see because now you're forcing the RNG where do I flinch you or paralyze you, then I can get this Pollen Puff. But Matthew might just opt to go for a Waterfall into Pollen Puff to maybe get into range of, who knows. I think that Matthew might be trying to chip it down, but inside like top level plays, like whenever you're at like the the worlds and everything, you need to go for like very like proactive plays of getting as much value out of every single Pokemon you possibly can. So that was like an opportunity cost of lost value potentially what Matthew went for there by not going for the side Pollen Puff on that turn.
I see what he's doing here, though. He's buying that turn, so the Wave Crash goes into the Protect. He does get to, of course, get this Pollen Puff in, which we saw did a good chunk to the Dondozo in the last turn. So even with leftover recovery, he's looking to just double up on this Dondozo the next turn, I think, with like Waterfall and then Pollen Puff. And if he gets away with it, right, like then he's going to be in a great position to, just kind of run away with the game. So not quite sure what he's going for here. It does taunt the Dondozo, so don't know if that's really the way, making sure it can't protect. Maybe that's the plan for the next couple of turns, right? Is like make sure that Dondozo can't protect. But it will, of course, get to knock out this Gyarados. Maybe he's banking on a full power there as well. Seems like a lot to ask for, though, as, these Pollen Puffs are racking up the damage, but they're not, like, immediately threatening a knockout. The big thing here, though, is, like, what comes in? Is it just going to be Iron Hands? Because if it is, right, like, Dondozo's just going to really struggle, I think. Flutter Mane's also just guaranteed faster, and can just start to cause massive problems, just, like, locking into Dazzling Gleam for the rest of the game. Assuming is it locked? No, it's not. It's a booster energy, so not even locked. But, would be in a position to just sit there and, like, Dazzling Gleam through a bunch of stuff. That Chi-Yu's very, very low as well. So, yeah, I mean, I do think Matt kind of took his finger off a little bit there, not trying to keep the Gyarados around longer, because, like, you could have just kept, like, that first one. I think if you Pollen Puff yourself and just keep it well out of range of Rave Crash, you just win the game that way. But, I can see what he's going for now. He was fine letting the Gyarados go down because at this current juncture, he did Taunt. He knows it can't protect, so he gets that free turn. He literally gets to go, okay, Knockout with the Moonblast, Spore with the Tatsugiri, and then you've just got to beat Chi-Yu the next turn.
So I do wonder what your thought on this kind of play maybe could have been. I wonder if maybe the Iron Hands came in and clicked Fake Out, and then you could get a guaranteed side Pollen Puff off the Iron Hands and just get more value out of that and just completely heal your team up to full HP. That could have been another option. So these Pollen Puff mind games, could be, or not really mind games because they're very, very safe. So these Pollen Puff identifications could take your play to the absolute next level. But still, Matthew's in a very commanding position. Like, if I were to pick a smart money, I would probably pick Matthew at this current moment in time, just because the Tatsugiri is asleep. Now, you do have access to Sleep Talk, so that I need to point a spotlight on this because this is not over, right?
Yeah.
What could totally happen is Icy Wind comes out and then a Heat Wave, and if this crits the Flutter Mane, that could just lose the game immediately.
Yep, well, it is going to be Sleep Talk. There was, of course, no Rage Powder, worrying about those spread moves, so it does feel a little bit wasted. There's the Icy Wind. This is going to get real dicey. Yeah, that's why I think Rage Powder wouldn't have been bad, just to make sure that whatever's going that way. But he does lock into Heat Wave, and with Bees of Ruin, it's not going to be enough. And yeah, even though he got both the attacks off, it does mean that Dazzling Gleam will just land with the Terastallization. Easy knockouts over on both sides of the field. So pretty easy one to wrap up. as Matthew went the long way around. I definitely think there's different plays he could have made, but he's still able to see off this Dondozo combination.
So all in all, like, you know, like that, I thought that was a very, very good board that Matthew set himself into. Is just the Terra Fairy Fluttermane sweep. There were really only 2 ways that Luis could have won that game inside of the very end, and those 2 ways were, number 1, rolling Icy Wind, and then critting the Heat Wave or clicking Overheat, but alternatively rolling Muddy Water and lowering the accuracy. Either way, both of those required you to roll a move, roll one of your moves because you're clicking Sleep Talk, because Matthew forced Sleep Talk out of hand from clicking Spore. So that's just kind of you know, like how this game works sometimes. Either way, though, that was a very, very good game. I really, really wonder how Luis will adjust into Game 2, given that the Haze came out there, the Clear Smog came out there from Amoonguss, and Amoonguss really just shut down that Dozo. That was the biggest thing, is that, ironically, even though this Dozo has Terra Grass, this Moon, which normally checks Amoonguss to some degree at least, this Amoonguss, like Agadi's Amoonguss at the finals of the European International Championships, also opts to have Clear Smog. So that's a key change here, and that made Dondozo very, very hard to approach. So I really wonder how Luis will change up his whole strategy inside of Game 2, and if he changes, will that be enough to beat Matthew, given how the Amoonguss was played?
Yeah, the Amoonguss felt really powerful there. It just caused a lot of problems, locked out the Dondozo with the Clear Smog, and I don't know what the way around is. I do think that maybe, you know, he's going to have to be a little more careful, though, you know. Going Terra Grass, it's like, okay, you get to avoid Spore, but, you know, the big thing there was just Thunderwave Clear Smog, which I really, really liked. I think Gyarados and Amoonguss is a really good pair. Like I say, I even think Matthew took his foot off the gas a little bit there and still won very, very confidently. So definitely got room to potentially be able to, you know, tidy these games up a little bit faster, a little bit quicker. But you can't knock him. You know, he was able to get the win there and push himself one step closer to finals here.
Good job. So he is So Matthew is currently 1 game away from making finals, and Luis needs to claw back by getting 2 wins. So we actually see a mix-up of Scizor as the lead from Matthew here with the Iron Hands, and Chi-Yu still is the lead for Luis, but instead of the Fluttermane this time, it is Glamora. So if I were to rate this little lead matchup here, I would want to say Luis has the lead matchup. Given you are forcing a Terra Fire to come out from the Scizor, because if it is not, then Heat Wave kind of just like knocks it out. You don't want to really lose a Pokemon like that super early on. And if you do force it, you can also get pinned down by the Power Gem from Glamora. So there's a lot. The ball is more instead of Luis's court. So if I had to, you know, put odds on this, I would say Luis comes out on top more likely than not. But Matthew could go for a few very specific plays that could maybe navigate him out of this, which, like, you know, maybe getting kind of cool with the SD. But let's see if Luis pinned down Matthew's Scizor, because it did decide to go for an attack.
Yeah, this is all about the read though on what he went for in this turn, and where the Terastallization goes. And I do think that where the Terastallization has gone, is actually just going to be really, really big here for the side of Matt. It's exactly kind of what he was expecting. The Terra Fire coming through on the Scizor, so keep himself safe from the Chi-Yu. The Terra Grass actually coming through on the Glamora. Yes, it's going to protect him from the Bullet Punch, but he could just get pounced a little later on, a move that I don't think many people have seen before. There's the Chi-Yu protecting those, so will eat this Drain Punch very, very comfortably, and this is Glamora's time to shine. The Bullet Punch will come through, not going to be super effective anymore, just a tiny little chunk there. It does, of course, activate those Toxic Debris spikes that get dropped around. Amoonguss is in the back, so I'm not so worried about it. And here is the Power Gem into the Scizor, easy to knock out. So this Scizor lead, I really don't think has paid off for Matt, and he lost his Terra type, and he's in a really rough situation. Needs to get the Amoonguss in now, but that's going to be Amoonguss staring down a Chi-Yu, who, guess what, is just going to protect itself from the Drain Punch.
So from a value perspective, just like I predicted, Luis...
Oh, no Amoonguss.
Oh, wow. So that means whatever comes in here, so has to be, you know, Fluttermane, it will get poisoned. That's what I wanted to highlight. So whenever Fluttermane comes in, we know it's getting poisoned because the Toxic Spikes went up, so that Fluttermane is on a timer for the rest of the game. And what's even worse about this is because there's no Amoonguss, if this Iron Hands decides to switch out, it will also get poisoned. So you are really, like, you know, kind of hands, like, you're in the corner right now. If you are Matthew, you have to play very, very specifically to get out of this. But Luis definitely came on top with that opening trade.
Yep, we're going to see how this one goes. This is going to be the second semi-final finish, though, as I do just get word that Hunter has defeated Anthony in our other semi-final. So that game definitely going a little bit quicker. Hunter, who we saw on earlier, will be waiting for the winner of this set. Fluttermane keeps itself safe, making sure it's not getting caught by this Heat Wave. Heat Wave, though, will connect with the side of the Iron Hands. The Iron Hands, of course, is avoiding the attack. I said it would. That is absolutely my curse. But Glamora's Earth Power, yes, there's an Assault Vest, but it's still going to be a good chunk of damage. And Iron Hands is going to say, thank you very much, Chi-Yu. I'll take a bunch of your health in exchange for mine. Give me that Focus Sash, and that is probably why you see the Flutter Mane protecting, right? Wants to make sure that it gets an easy knockout on this Chi-Yu. Doesn't want to just eat Heat Waves. And now, yep, the Flutter Mane is going to take a little bit of poison damage, but is still in a great position to just go, you know what? Dazzling Gleam, I think would be really, really good here, and then anything to finish off this Glamora, which Drain Punch helping out if you do get hit in exchange, and then maybe force him down to this like back duo.
Dazzling Gleam is so proactive here too, cause just like you get 1 KO and you get a bunch of damage on a now no longer resisting Glamora because it's grass. On top of this, you also get the Beads of Ruin if the Chi-Yu decides to stay in, so you get so much value out of that. That's such a good play. So we know just from the absolute sheer amount of value you'll get from that Dazzling Gleam is coming out from Flutter Mane. So Luis knows that for a fact. See how it's like Matthew is forced to make these plays because of how Luis' positioning is right now. It's like it's not even bad to be forced like this because you're so far ahead. But anyways though, so yeah, that Drain Punch came out. Let's see.
Well, there's the Dazzling Gleam. The Power Gem will fire back. I mean, it's going to be nice, but no boost from the Chi-Yu anymore, right? It's just going down to the Flutter Mane. And Iron Hands is going to, not get it with the Drain Punch. This makes things really awkward, right? Because it's like, oh, well, Iron Hands is back at full health. You've just put up the second layer of spikes. Not that it matters because Gyarados is actually flying, so shouldn't get affected, assuming there's no switches going on. And Flutter Mane's already poisoned. But the big thing here is okay, are we banking on Dondozo Tatsugiri? Because at that point, I mean, the Dondozo is going to come in and just kind of get well done. Yeah, no Dondozo Tatsugiri. It's Flutter Mane. It's like either way, right? You're in a pretty good position, I think, if you're on the side of Matt here. You know, the Iron Hands is going to be able to do a lot of damage to a Flutter Mane.
No, I would not say that quite yet, because if you're on the side of Luis, now you have access to a Moonblast onto the Iron Hands, and you can do 1,000,000 damage onto it. It's also, if Gyarados decides to come on in here, nothing really wants to beat this up. So Dazzling does come out because I believe Matthew's holding Choice Specs, if I remember that correctly. So Choice Specs coming out. I will say...
No, Matthew uses the booster energy, but it doesn't matter. He's just faster. Luis is the Specs, right? Yeah.
Perfect.
But the Dazzling Gleam, though, my big concern is it's not going to be enough with the spread damage, obviously, to get through this Iron Hands. So the Iron Hands is just going to be free to wild charge here. That's an easy knockout. Yes, it's a lot of damage in return, but you're putting yourself in a 2v1 position, and it's probably an Iron Bundle.
So the question is that in the Hydro Pump range, Iron Hands? I don't think so, because I know Iron Hands. That is a very, very sturdy unit. So I do not think Hydro Pump gets it, but there's still the play of, okay, I could Thunder Wave you. If you are Luis, you have to go for Hydro Pump on this Iron Hands. You have to pray that it gets rid of it, because then you can potentially go for a Freeze Dry onto the Gyarados. Just know it cannot protect this turn. As long as you knock this out with Hydro Pump, I think you're good, but presumably it will not unless, like a crit or something comes out. Or maybe the Iron Hand's not trained super special defensive.
He's gone Hydro Pump, he's hit it. Nah. It's not enough for the knockout. Assault Vest way too good there. Gyarados will use a Thunder Wave just to make sure for the last couple turns here. But it doesn't really matter. I know what's coming next. I've already seen the selection from Matt. There's the Drain Punch into Iron Bundle. Not defensive, not at all. And Matt Laughlin, our second seed, will be heading on into the finals. So a quick 2-0 in both of our games, it seems. Plenty of adaptation from Luis in that set, but yeah, honestly, Iron Hands really showed up. Iron Hands Gyarados actually showed up big in this set.
Luis looked so ahead for a second there, but I think the biggest turn was whenever Flutter Mane was able to get out that Dazzling Gleam and get so much value out of that, where it picked up the Chi-Yu and it also did a bunch of damage to Terra Glass or Grass Glamora. And the other thing is that although Toxic Spikes went up, Matt played his back very, very well, because it was a Gyarados which could switch in. It was flying type, obviously, so you could switch into that the Toxic Spikes, and he just left his Iron Hands in. That was what the craziest thing was, just leaving the Iron Hands in. He's like, okay, well, if I switch out, I'm getting poisoned, so he's just full sending it every turn, just punching stuff left and right, and he got what he needed.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like very, very good play across the board, and Matt, one of our Florida local regulars, advancing to the finals against Hunter. So looking forward to that game, but of course time is ticking, and we'll be taking a short break, get that game ready, and see who wins our first Premier Challenge here in Maitland.